Well, good evening. You saved the best for last. My name is Celia Biggs, and I teach math and reading on the Griffin team, and I've been at Buchser for 28 years.
I'm Laura Jones. This is my first year at Buchser, and I teach math and reading on the Sharks team.
My name is Caitlin Mahoney. I have been at Buchser for 21 years, and I teach math and social studies on the Panda team. And I feel very fortunate to be working here at Buchser and part of the Buchser community.
I'm Una Mendoza. I'm a resource specialist here, and I support the entire 6th grade team.
All right, so I'm gonna briefly touch on what is the same in any 6th grade math class at any school in our school district. So the first thing to note is that we do not have in our district an accelerated math program for 6th grade. If your child is in 6th grade, they will be attending a 6th grade math class. There is no other option in sanitary uniform. So everything we have is, again, unified across every math class at every school. So we have a pacing guide, which kind of tells us what we're teaching around when we're teaching it. And part of that is so that if you have a change in location and your student is going to another school, when they enter a 6th grade math class, they should still be in around the same area. We have two different curriculum. One is called McGraw-Hill and the other one is Desmos. McGraw-Hill is pretty easily accessible online through their portal, and Desmos is also primarily an online program, but it's more controlled by the teachers. Again, the units are all the same, and it's pretty standard. We also use things like Mars tasks, which is a performance task assessment that goes with our different units that students, it pushes them a little bit and can be a little bit challenging. And then we also still continue to use iReady in middle school. The other thing we've started this year at Buchser is Math Olympiad. So that's an international math competition, which has been very beneficial to everyone, but kind of more specifically our advanced math students. So we run it as an after-school club. I actually run the 6th grade math one, and the students are struggling with it. Even like our top students who are scoring at a high school level and on iReady are struggling with Math Olympiad, which is great. They're having to talk about it to answer the questions, and then they're taking the quizzes, and they're not all being able to do it in the time frame. So it's adding an additional challenge. It's open to everyone. It's not just for our high math students. And so far, they've gotten a lot of fun out of it, and we are currently offering that for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
So Laura shared about what was the same across the district. And before we talk about what's different at Buchser, I'd like to just take one moment to talk personally. 8 years ago, I was in the same place you are, trying to figure out where I was going to place my child, who was a 5th grader at that time. And I have such faith and trust in my Buchser community, the teachers and the staff, that I chose to place my child here. And they went through Buchser all the way through 8th grade, and then graduated at Mission Early College High School and is doing very, very well. So I think I want you to understand that's as you make that decision, that I looked at all of the things, and that I chose Buchser as the best possible choice for me and my family. Let's talk a little bit about what's different at Buchser Middle School. So as a 6th grade, our objective is to have students provide evidence both in thinking, both verbally and in writing. And so what does that look like? What that looks like, every day they come in, they get whiteboards and markers. There's normally a warm-up question. It is open-ended, and they're writing how they solved it. But not only writing, now we want them to listen, and we want them to be able to communicate. So A is going to share to B partner how they solved it, and B has to listen because B is going to share out how A did it. And A is going to share with B, and B is going to share out how A did it. And we've started this from day one, so kids just know that we're a community of learners. And if you see the colors on the desks, what happens is that teachers just pick a color of that day. They'll say, greens stand up, and greens will be stand up and ready to present. But they're not going to just present anyway. They're going to present in an academic math talk routine. So they're going to start and they're going to use an adjective, my likable fellow learner. so-and-so, state, justify. They're going to share out how that person solved the problem, and we're gonna go back and forth. So now we've got them speaking, we've got them talking, listening, and then we want them writing. So what we've decided is we've decided that we want them to critique others. So this is a fake student, this is not a real student, and we put up a problem. How would you advise Luca with this issue, with this problem? And so what we want them to do is first be able to restate the question in their answer. Then we want them to show their work with numbers and in writing. Then we want them to clearly state the correct answer. Now, this doesn't happen on day one. So day one we take and it's chunked, smaller bits. So now this is where we're at. Are all students here? No, but every student is on their way. And so we want them to be able to talk, to communicate in an academic manner. In addition, what are we doing? We're also providing group work and projects and problems of the month to differentiate learning.
Also at Buchser, especially as they enter in 6th grade, it's really important that we take some time to make sure that our students have a growth mindset in all subject matters, but especially in math. We want them to train them that it's okay if they don't understand something right away, and that they are going to challenge themselves to feel a little struggle, and they might not get the correct answer the first or second time, but using different strategies, talking with their partners, and not giving up and quitting, they will feel success and they will get to that point. So it's just teaching them through that growth mindset that you can believe in yourselves, because some students have a block when it comes to math, and we want all students to know that they can be successful with hard work, right? So just making sure that they are challenging themselves and working hard. And so part of the way we do this is like when someone says something like, I give up or I quit, we're like, oh, we don't use that phrase in this classroom. And then we might point to our posters, and we have these posters pointed in our different classrooms, but like it says, I give up. Well, didn't you mean to say something like, I need to use some different strategies to learn this? So we'll take, a negative statement, and we'll turn it around. And so then you'll start hearing students saying it to one another as they are working together in groups. So it's okay to not understand something. We all are gonna fail. That's part of being learners, but it's how we address it after that and the next steps that we take, so that we make sure that we do at a certain point understand what we are learning.
Okay, so this is for parents of students that have IEPs, individualized education plans. Please know that the basic math program is actually a very special program because we use a hybrid of the 6th grade curriculum and targeted intervention. So what that means is everything that everybody's doing in the 6th grade math classes, we are doing in the special education setting, and they're also getting that targeted skill development based on their IEP goals. I just wanted to note that I have probably the most struggling students, but this is a testament to this program because I gave an example earlier of a student that I had at the beginning of the year who asked to go to the bathroom almost every single math class, sometimes twice. Because sometimes kids come with the math fear, right? Or they just don't feel like they can do it. I'm telling you, by Christmas, I stopped and I thought one day, wait, I don't remember the last time she even went to the bathroom. And she's answering questions using the frames that we all use in the classrooms. And it is like a completely different student. And that was a very powerful moment for us because that just shows how well this program works for everyone. And I'm really happy with it.
We don't have much time, but I know there's always that homework question, right? How much homework, how much time for homework? 20 minutes.
Good
I knew it was gonna
evening.
happen. 20 minutes.
Last period
And if
of
they
the
don't
day, I
understand
just wanted to
something,
make a
we
quick
ask that
announcement
you
for
write
any
sign
parent or
on the
family who did
homework.
not come
That tells us
grab
that
a
we need to be
copy. We
touched.
have
Yes.
one
So we never
in
want a
the
child to
main
struggle.
office.
So
But
if they don't
one
understand it,
last
we're
message
asking
from
you to
your
sign
web
it, and
leaders.
then your child will be.
Their English department, English teachers in 6th grade. I have my notes on my phone, so sorry. And I'm not sure. And so each of us will talk a little bit and we'll give you just a little bit of information about language arts and reading in 6th grade. Okay, and I'll start with Ray. There you go. At Buchser, we strongly emphasize evidence, providing evidence in every subject area. It's true in all subject areas, including reading and writing. If you provide evidence with your with your response, you're going to get a much stronger response. So this is something we work on a lot. We do a lot of evidence-based writing, which includes all different kinds of things. Some of the examples here are responding to literature, informational writing, both personal and academic informational writing, and argumentative writing, that is writing meant to convince a reader to agree with you, your position on an issue. And in all of their reading, in all of their writing and speaking, Buchser students know to use academic language appropriate for school, to ensure that their meaning is clear and easy to understand by any reader. And then I'll let Ms. Gutierrez introduce herself and tell more about her.
Well, I'm Evangeline Gutierrez. I'm also a 6th grade teacher here. This is my first year here at Buchser, and I've had the privilege of teaching ELA and reading. So we start off the year usually with narrative writing. This year, specifically, we incorporated fictional narrative. So we picked nonfiction articles, and we taught them the students how to skim and scan the article, a hook dialogue using figurative language, and part by part, and then we kind of had them show us their magic. If you are looking at this was an example of when they first begin, or when they first come in, I have them do a pre-assessment, and usually I give them a prompt, and this prompt was about creating a story where they were embarrassed, but they had to pull evidence from a nonfiction article, and this is what started. And when you turn to the next page, this is just a glance. By the end of the unit, the student was being able to produce something a bit more fitting. So she was able to do the hook, use quotes, and being able to really go into details with this. And if you have the chance before you leave, all of them are on the wall, examples of the narrative rating that they created. So it's definitely, we really go into incorporating the story arc, so making sure that the story has an exposition, rising action, a climax, falling action, resolution. And then if you look at the back page, this is a copy of our academic vocabulary that we use here at Buchser. And this incorporates a lot of vocabulary that you see cross-curricular in every subject. And they're posted on the wall, where students are engaging in learning the meaning, synonyms, singular, plural, and then doing a lot of A-B partners. So they sit next to each other and they do a lot of verbal practice where they're talking, using the sentences down at the bottom, filling in the blanks, and they're sharing every day. They're just, we're practicing how to use the word correctly, when to use the word, and then they are getting rewarded when they're using the words in different classes. We're really close with communicating with as a team, making sure that they are aware of the vocabulary that is being used. And something I do want to emphasize is that these are familiar vocabulary with our LPAC and CAS testing that we take every year. And if your child is a second language learner, so their first language is not English, they will be taking the LPAC coming up this month or in March. And it is very important that they try their hardest on it, so they're able to come into 6th grade and exit out of the ELD class. And for CASP, of course, the state testing at the end of the year.
Oh, that's me. Hi everyone, I'm Gail Brazier. I've been at Buchser long time, maybe 15 years or so, but welcome. Thank you so much for coming. I like to say you're the child's first teacher, so thank you for being here. I want to talk to you a little bit about reading. We are very excited that at Buchser next year we're going to be able to keep our designated reading period for 6th grade. In 7th and 8th grade, it's one period that includes writing and reading, but in 6th grade at Buchser, we are able to provide them with one designated period of reading, which the reading teachers love because we emphasize what they were talking about in English and how it transfers into our novels and vice versa. What we're learning in our novels, the author's craft in a book and how that can transfer into our writing. So we do iReady. I didn't realize until last year that in elementary school they also do iReady because I heard some sighs from the incoming graders like, oh, you know iReady, good. We continue with iReady, and it's a commitment in our department to have that 45 minutes of practice. But what's great about it is that it's like diagnostic, so it adjusts to what each student individually needs, which is like going to the doctor and you get that medicine that's just right for you. So we do continue with iReady. We talk a lot about cognitive strategies, not only in nonfiction, but in fiction as well. Our main textbook is the Mirrors and Windows textbook. And then we also incorporate lots of class novels, which I have some over on the board. Right now my class is reading The Breadwinner. Lots of spin-offs for The Breadwinner, so that when we do a unit on literature circles, sometimes the students will choose one of the spin-offs for a whole class novel because I want to know what happened to this main character, or take this angle on the story. So we get to that opportunity in literature circles where students get to choose which book interests them the most, and they get in groups and are able to read and discuss the book with their group in literature circles. We focus a lot, as was said, on nonfiction reads and the structure of articles so that we can transfer that knowledge into the CASP test, for example, when a child has like 5 sources they have to read through or scan through, and how not to feel overwhelmed, and how you can use the title or the heading of nonfiction text to just scan that part, and maybe you just have to read this much instead of this much. So we focus a lot on that. And then we do have some independent reading time. We have SSR at Buchser every day except for Wednesday, 20 minutes of reading, where the kids can read anything that they'd like. We go to the library twice a week so kids can choose books that they want to read. We encourage them to choose books that are not only interesting to them, that they want to read, but are at their reading range and their sweet spot, so their reading is growing this school year. And that is reading. Oh, we choose books, if you want to go to the next slide, we like to choose books that have these real world issues. The kids love to discuss real world issues in 6th grade and how it's impacting the world. So here's a few photos of after we read A Long Walk to Water, the kids experiencing what it might feel like to carry heavy jugs of water daily, like the main character in the novel who had to go fetch water. And then that then prompted an argument letter in writing class to the United Nations on how important it is to have access to clean water globally. And this putting practice, being able to practice empathy, empowered them to, on their own, individually donate to Salva, the other main character's Water for South Sudan charity. I was really proud of that. Some of them did that on their own.
Hello, I'm Luella Morena. I'm one of the resource specialists here at Buchser, and I support students with IEPs in the general education classroom, so most likely all of them will see me in different classes. But I also teach reading intervention, and this class is a combination of reading and language arts. The good thing about going last is they explained everything about reading, they explained everything about language arts. So it's a combination class, which means I just focus on those key standards that my students need in order to be successful in those general education classes. So our pacing is slower than gen ed, but we use the same materials. We also use the same strategies. The district focus on academic vocabulary, on writing and reading. And so they also have independent tasks. My structure is we have a whole group and a small group intensive instruction depending on student needs. But what we want to do is to make sure that they have those comprehension skills, to make sure that wherever they go, science, social studies, reading, or math, because reading is everywhere, that they will have those skills, and we have them, we prepare them in those small group classes. Thank you. Have any questions? You're welcome. Oh, and they can exit reading intervention. They don't have to be in that class as long as after we take iReady 3 times. So if they have a Lexile of 770 or they're we bridge the gap enough that they are mid 4th or 5th, then they can be in those regular classes. And that is it for us.
Thank you.
We weren't quite sure on timing, so if we talk really fast.
A little bit about science. So, middle schoolers come in, or students come in from 5th grade, they're super excited. Yes, I get a full day of science, or a full hour of science every single day. And it is super fun, but in their brains, they're imagining the exploding volcanoes and the solar system projects and things like that. We do a lot of projects. One of the things students aren't necessarily prepared for is the reading, writing, and math that are also layered in with the science. So they're like, oh my gosh, I thought it was just gonna be all fun and building and other things. There is a lot of reading, writing, and math that do go into the science class. So it can sometimes be a little bit more challenging than they're anticipating. It still tends to be, they enjoy it, but there is a huge part of that. In 6th grade, our focus, kind of our year-long focus, is what are living things and how do they interact with Earth? So we started the year looking at characteristics of life. We got into microscopes and what can we see under a microscope. Some of the 8th graders, yes, kind of test, like, did you enjoy the microscope unit and getting to build and learn how they work and things like that? That's often one of their favorites, bringing in that engineering level. From there, we talk about cells, we build cell models, we just did body systems. Right now, we are heading into inheritance and reproduction. I tell them it is not the 5th grade talk. We're not doing body parts. It is simply what happens, sexual versus asexual reproduction, when there's one parent contributing information or 2 parents contributing information. But they still get a little nervous when you start using that vocabulary with them. Then we start getting into how the environment affects those genetics. And then what are things that affect the environment, whether it's thermal energy or water cycle, currents, weather, all of those things, and kind of ending with human impact. So most of our science teachers all like to use an interactive notebook that essentially becomes their very own textbook, where they're doing all of their labs, all of their writing, any of the math, any of the things that they're doing. This for, I think, across the board, all science classes use an interactive notebook. So that's where you'll find a lot of the information for science.
So for social studies, it's all good. The nice thing about social studies is it's a little bit easier of a transition from 5th to 6th. We use the same curriculum that the elementary does, so it's TCI. They will still have access to the digital textbook just like they currently do, and then all the classrooms have our physical textbook as well. The topics that get covered in 6th grade are ancient civilizations. So we start off with early humans, we move on to Mesopotamia, then we go to ancient Egypt and ancient Israel with the ancient Hebrews. We are currently in ancient India right now. Then we'll move on to ancient China, Greece, and Rome by the end of the year. And for every civilization, the standards and the textbook and everything covers the same 6 topics, so we're getting to compare and contrast a whole lot
between those because we're studying the same things in each of those civilizations. So we studied the geography. We're learning lots of map skills. It's very hard. And then we have religion and achievements, politics, economics, social structures, and we can compare like what was happening over in ancient India versus what we learned about in ancient Egypt, and it's this really cool, like, just kind of seeing how everyone developed. And then with our curriculum, we have lots of videos that they have access to. There is quizzes and other assessments. There's lots of projects, like we did a comic book on Neolithic versus Paleolithic times. There's discussion questions. A lot of them will also have notebooks very similar to like science, and there's just, it's a little bit easier for transition because they're used to that curriculum setup, but it's a completely new set of topics, but they get very interested in it.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about communications. So I want to first talk about the Aries Parent Portal. If you go to Buchser's website, you'll find that portal there, and that's where you got to input your students' information, and that's important. The other sources are like emailing your students' teachers. It's important that you email the teachers directly instead of going through Parent Square. Parent Square is used by teachers sometimes for announcements, but we definitely prefer the direct communication between emails. Okay, that is important. Sometimes every once in a while you'll get a pop-up email, but it's very unusual that teachers will email back and forth to Parent Square. Also, agendas is another form of communication with the parents. They're supposed to write their homework, or some teachers have them write what they did during class that day in this agenda. They get that at the beginning of the year, and they're supposed to write in it for every class, every day. And then they take that home. For my students, I have them write their homework, and if there is no homework, they write no homework. That way the parent knows they didn't forget to write it. So we do like to use that. Let's see, there's also, if you're looking at your students' Google Classroom, I know you had that in elementary school. Sometimes you'll see announcements there. You'll also find assignments. You won't find their grades. The grades are always going to be in Aries, which is our grade book, and you'll see the assignment and their grade. In Google Classroom, usually will have what we're doing in a particular unit. Okay, some teachers will put a daily agenda up, what they do that day. Some teachers will put just what projects are being worked on, etc. You can find out what they're doing in each class. Each class will have their own Google Classroom. So science has their own, etc. Let's see. I already talked about the math. Oh, so also, Parent Square can be used for mass communication with the district as well.
And then letter grades.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You want to go talk about it? I'll let you.
So letter grades, that's the major transition from elementary to middle school, is you're going from the numbers that you just started to figure out back to the old school A, B, C, D, F. As Ms. Sloan iterated, Google Classroom is really to push out information where they might turn in a project, but most teachers, if you're wondering, does my kid have a missing assignment? How are they doing? Aries is where you're gonna check. It is live all the time, it's up to date, as much as the teacher keeps it kind of up to date, and it can tell you the current standing of your child in that class in that moment, which is a huge transition that my middle schooler doesn't like, because all of a sudden I know if they turned in assignments or they did not. So it's a really good way to kind of track their progress as they're moving across a lot of classes.
And I don't know if we said that there's a parents Aries and a student Aries that you can sign up. So parents have access with their own password. I can do it, guys. I'd go in and look at their grades on your own. You don't have to say, "Hey kids, show me your grades." You can actually go and look. Okay, so track the cat. Okay, this is a very cool orientation that we do at the beginning of the year. Actually, it's 1 week before the school starts. It's called Track the Cat. And it is on August 7th this year. So 1 week before school starts. I think it starts on the 13th. We just found that out. And it's a good chance for incoming sixth graders to get to know the campus and some of their fellow classmates. It's run by eighth graders, okay, and I think here are some of our web leaders, right? Yeah, you guys are web leaders, all of you? Yeah. Oh, there's more out there?
Yeah, the guys are heading out.
Oh, okay. And they're part of a club here at Buchser, and it's called WEB, which stands for Where Every Bobcat Belongs. And the eighth graders work with WEB teachers to put on a half-day event where students are placed in small groups, and they participate in a bunch of activities like getting to know you games. They do a tour of the campus, and they get tips and advice from eighth graders. And they also get to meet some staff members. So it's a really good way to get to know the campus and some students that they may here. And their eighth grade leader will also be their touch-based person during the school year. And they'll get together as a group a couple of times during the year to see how they're doing and just checking in with them. And these invitations are sent over the summer via email. So you just need to make sure that your email is up to date in the Aries parent portal, because that's how you will get information about it. And also the web leaders, is really cool to get an eighth grader to call a fifth grader in early August to say, hey, welcome, you are going to be part of my group during a Track the Cat. So they get a call as well. So not only is the email sent, but they get a call from their web leader.
And I was going to say, I know several of the sixth graders this year because I knew them when I taught elementary previous to this. They were so excited that they got that call from the eighth grader. They felt so cool. I was like, oh my gosh. But the web leaders also come in during their SSR periods, and we'll do little activities and things with them. It's really it builds a strong connection, and like you'll see them talking like during past.
Sixth graders, this is the last class of the night. Make your way.
And I teach math, social studies, and PE.
But we're just going to talk about PE and Explore right now. So what we want to tell you a little bit about is the idea of how electives work at Buchser, right? So you have this idea for sixth graders that they have either band and music, or they have like Explore, which is going to be a bunch of different things that come together on different days. And then we'll talk a little bit about kind of the A-B days as well. So where you have one day is PE, and then another day is going to be your elective, whatever that is, music or Explore. I'll talk a little bit about Explore first and kind of what we do in Explore. Our goal with Explore is to allow students to explore. So we're looking at ways to bring in lots of different things that they can do. One of the things we like for them to do is art. Obviously, we want them to kind of understand the elements of art. So we start the year usually looking at the 7 elements of art, and then we do a bunch of different types of work that it focuses on that one thing. So we're working on shape. We'll do a piece of art that really focuses on shape, and all of these, if that makes sense. So we'll go through each of the 7 elements of art and do a certain type of art element that goes with that. In addition, we do artist spotlight. So we'll take an actual artist, we'll talk about who that artist is, we'll talk about what's significant about the work that they do, and then we'll ask them to do some kind of art that goes along with that. So for example, this would be after we've studied Georgia O'Keeffe. This one would be after we study Matisse. These are like the paper art. Matisse was really big on, at the end of his life, really working with paper, and so we do paper art. The other thing that we do with art as well is we focus on what's happening in social studies, and so we'll take whatever subject is happening in social studies and we'll do an art project based on that. And so for example, when we're studying ancient Egypt, we'll do something like this, which is we create an actual mummy, we have them decorate it the way a sarcophagus might actually look. So that would be some of the things we do with art. You want to do the next one? Oh, actually go back one more. I'm going to talk a little bit about Canva. The other thing that we started doing a couple years ago is training our kids in Canva. And if anyone knows what Canva is, it's actually used in the workplace all the time nowadays. And it's a creative design app. And it's actually something that is great for people to know because it is what gets used all the time in the workplace. So Today, right, like in the last few days, we just started diving into working in that app and teaching kids how to kind of navigate it, create projects in there. And so we do all kinds of really fun projects. We'll do posters, we'll do videos, and then they use it in other classes for their projects as well. All right, thanks. Okay, so we break it up for our elective. Every kid gets PE, but for our elective, they split in half. Some kids are gonna get some kind of music, and some kids are gonna get the exploratory, which are the things I just talked about. And so music is broken up into band and orchestra, and we also have a mariachi band as well, which is amazing. But you'll see that these are kind of the things we do in exploratory and then the music. And so when kids have their elective, they either go to band or they go to explore. They don't get to do both. They have to choose between one or the other. Oh, in 7th grade, yes. We do want to point out that in 7th grade, their electives increase and they have their elective every single day. So their choices increase, so they get a lot more choice in 7th grade. And you'll learn more about that probably at the end of 6th grade of what the choices will be open for the next year. But like next year, I think that they have photography open, they have technology of some sort open, they have world languages open. And so 7th grade, their electives increase, and they have them every day. Thank you. We really want to make sure that if you are interested in having your kid in band, orchestra, or mariachi, that you get them signed up as soon as possible. Many of you should have already gotten some of this kind of thing at your elementary school, but if not, please try to sign up today if you're interested. And you can use the QR code if you decide you want your child to be in music. I suggest doing it as soon as possible so that it can kind of get set for next year. I want to talk a little bit about the AB day that happens. So this one's kind of funky, so I'm going to show you this one under you can look at this back here. So what happens, again, I'm going to explain this a little bit. We have an A-B schedule for PE and elective. So it goes A-B, A-B, A-B. So if you have PE on A day, you're going to have your elective on B day. And then you'll have PE again the next day, and then your elective the next day. And so it goes back and forth, A-B, A-B. So students get PE every other day, and they get their elective every other day. Does that make sense? In the beginning of the year, trust me, your 6th graders are going to come home and be like, I don't understand. Where am I supposed to go? I was supposed to go to PE, but now I have to go to, I don't get it. And it will take them a couple days to kind of figure out how it works, but they'll get it. Don't worry, they always do. And that's only for a second period, obviously. Or maybe next year will be 5th period.
Yeah.
I think next year it might be 5th period. I'm going to hand it off to Mr. Swinsky for PE.
All right, welcome to physical education here at Buchser 6th grade, otherwise known as PE. We have 4 main objectives in our PE program, and they are safety, good sportsmanship, exercise. We want to get them moving, and having fun. I always tell my students, yes, we want you to have fun, but we also want you to take it seriously because you are graded in PE in 6th grade. So it's very different than elementary. I tell them to think of it as, as an equal to math or social studies. It is different where we're outside, we want them to move and have fun, but we also want that seriousness as well because this is something that they'll be having throughout the rest of their educational career as well. Next up here we have some of the units and activities that we will be doing. In addition to these activities and units, we teachers generally begin each one of them doing drills. And we do that because we realize that not every student is on the same athleticism. And to build up their confidence to be able to do these activities, we focus on drills that are important for each one of these activities. The one that I'll talk more specifically right now about is our Bobcat Mile. And because of our AB days, your child will be doing it every other week. It's out here on our track, and it's 5 times around the track. It's not exactly a mile, but it's pretty close. That's why we call it the Bobcat Mile. But that will be done every other week, depending on what day the teacher does have their mile run. I'm sure you probably have heard of other kids talking about that. They just love it.
Your kid knows when the mile's coming because they'll be like.
And then, according to Ed Code, students in 6th grade are required to have 200 minutes of PE, hence the reason why it should be taken seriously because they have to have it. We actually exceed that. We actually have 250 minutes here. at Buchser, so it's more energy that we're getting out for you guys at home.
And with the energy, your brain works better.
Yeah.
Like when you exercise, your brain works better.
Yeah, and you know, 6th grade on many levels is very transitional, again, in many ways, but also in PE. In 6th grade, they have PE every other day. In 7th and 8th grade, they're gonna have it every day. In 6th grade, they don't change into a uniform, but in 7th and 8th grade, they do change into a uniform. So not only are we trying to instill these 4 objectives and have them do these activities, we want to prepare them for the 7th and 8th grade experience, because I will always have my 7th graders come back and be like, I like the every other day PE.
I miss 6th grade.
But it's great for them, and you know, changing into the uniform actually gives them a different kind of mindset with that. But yeah, so they have plenty of time to run around and play. So I'm going to talk briefly about clubs. I know Ms. Fisher wants to talk more specifically about a couple of them. Here is a list of some of the clubs that we have had here at Buchser. We also have had homework clubs. Most 6th grade teachers do have a homework club, whether it's before school, after school, or at lunchtime. Lunch Bunch is usually run by our counselor, Dr. Van Horn. We have some after-school sports. The YMCA, I think they talked about that at your meeting. ASB is our Associated Student Body, which is basically like our student leadership. And GAINS, which is Girls Achieving in Non-Traditional Subjects. And then Ms. Fisher would like to talk about the Photography Club and Web.
So I run the photography club. My past life, I was a photographer. But what is unique about the photography club is that it is something that is a mentorship. They get one-on-one mentorship in our photography club from students from Santa Clara University. It's something that's kind of unique to this school because we're next to the university. We get students coming over all the time to help do some of our clubs. Sometimes they come for our homework club as well. We also have them sometimes come into classrooms and are able to kind of sit with students that need just a little bit more support. They go through all the rigmarole that they have to in order to be allowed in the classroom. It's a great asset that we have that I don't think other schools necessarily get, because the university is right there, and it becomes part of their curriculum is to send their kids over for service and volunteering. So we're really lucky. The photography club, they get one-on-one mentorship. It only goes for 8 weeks. It's happening right now, and we usually get more applicants than we can take. And it's they get at the end of the whole club, they actually get to have a gallery walk at the university. Friends and family get to come and see. It's a great experience. And so, if your children are all into photography, that's something they may want to do. I want to talk about web as well. I'm one of the web coordinators. And so what I think web is and why I love it so much is it is this amazing mentorship as well from 8th graders to 6th graders. And what it does is it helps really create a community here at Buchser where your 8th graders are seeing their 6th graders as their buddies rather than as someone they want to torture, right? I mean, if anyone remembers 6th grade back when I was a kid, you're like, no, 8th graders are gonna hurt me. But at our school, we create this thing called Web, where the 8th graders actually become their mentors. And you'll have seen some of the Web leaders walking around on campus, right? And we do 3 days of training with the Web leaders so that they know exactly how to kind of come in and mentor some of their 6th graders. Sometimes they do lunch activities with them. Sometimes they come in and do kind of non-bullying, SEL kind of things in the classroom with them. And I think that's unique to Buchser. I don't know that the other middle schools have Web. I don't know that for sure, but I'm thinking it's unique to Buchser. And we as teachers have to go train for 3 days to be able to run it. And so it's this really amazing program that we have here.
And
I love
WEB
it.
stands for Where Every Bobcat Belongs,
Yes.
so it's special to us.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I love web and I love all of our, we have some really great clubs, and a lot of these clubs are actually student run, so it really does also help them become leaders in that perspective as well. So I think that's just about our time. Thank you all for coming. Yeah?
Really quickly, the after school sports, are they open for 6th graders?
Yes, absolutely. They do have to try out.